The text arrived while I was folding the laundry. "Hey, sweetie, just a heads up. Christmas is going to be simple this year. Money is tight, so we will not be doing big gifts, just the essentials." I stared at the message, my fingers tightening around the fabric in my hands. I was not surprised. My parents had always been practical about Christmas. They never splurged, never went overboard. But this year, something about the message felt off. It was not just that they were cutting back. It was the finality of it, like a decision had already been made without me. Still, I forced a smile and replied, "Of course, no worries. The kids will understand." Because what else could I say? My husband and I were not exactly swimming in money either, but we always made Christmas special for our twins, Emma and Noah. We saved throughout the year, picked out thoughtful gifts, wrapped them with care. Even if it was not extravagant, it was magical. But I swallowed my disappointment and let it go. After all, family is not about gifts. It is about being together. That is what I told myself. That is what I believed until the photos popped up on my screen. It was 2 days after Christmas, a lazy afternoon. The kids were playing with their new toys, my husband was fixing a leaky faucet, and I was scrolling through social media, just passing the time. And then I saw it. "Best Christmas ever," my sister's caption was plastered over a carousel of photos. The first image was my parents' living room, but transformed. A massive tree twinkled with white lights, its branches weighed down by shiny gold and red ornaments. A mountain of gifts spilled onto the floor, wrapped in elegant silver and gold paper. My nieces, my sister's 2 girls, sat in the center of it all, tearing into expensive brand-name presents. Designer sneakers, high-end electronics, and what looked like a brand-new tablet in my youngest niece's hands. I froze, my heart pounding. We had not been invited. No one had mentioned a family Christmas gathering. For us, Christmas had been quiet. Just my husband, the twins, and me. Eating a simple dinner at home, exchanging modest gifts, and watching Christmas movies on the couch. No grandparents, no cousins, no big celebration. Because apparently we were not part of the family this year. I scrolled through the photos again, hoping I had misunderstood. Maybe this was from last year. Maybe they had reused an old post. But no, the timestamp was clear. This had happened this Christmas. I checked my messages. Nothing from my mom. Nothing from my dad. No invite? No mention. I swallowed hard. Had they even thought about Emma and Noah while they watched my nieces unwrap hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars in gifts? Had they even cared? I felt sick. I did not want to assume the worst. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe. But deep down, I already knew the truth. They had lied to me. Not just about the money, not just about the gifts. They had lied about what we meant to them. I was not angry at my nieces. They were just kids. I was not even angry at my sister. I had long accepted that she had always been my parents' favorite. But my parents, the people who raised me, the ones who told me that Christmas was not about gifts, that family mattered most, had deliberately excluded us from something that should have been for all of us. And the worst part? They had let my children believe that Christmas had to be small and simple because there was no other choice. Yet for my sister's kids, Christmas had been grand and extravagant. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without hesitation, I went to my contacts. I blocked their numbers. Not in anger, not in pettiness, but because sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. And this year, my Christmas gift to myself was peace. Blocking their numbers should have felt like closure. Instead, it felt like an open wound. The days after Christmas passed in a blur. I went through the motions, cooking, cleaning, playing with Emma and Noah, but I felt hollow. The betrayal sat in my chest, heavy like a stone I could not swallow. My husband, James, noticed. "You okay?" he asked one evening as we put the kids to bed. His voice was careful, knowing. I hesitated. "Yeah, just tired," I lied, pressing a kiss to Emma's forehead before shutting off the light. He did not push, but I saw the way he watched me, the way his brow furrowed when he caught me staring off into space. Because how do you say out loud, "My own parents do not care about me"? How do you admit that you were not just left out, you were discarded? I expected them to try to contact me, but nothing happened. The silence stretched for days. At first, I thought my mom would at least try. Some excuse, some last-minute explanation to soften the blow. But there was nothing. Then my sister's name popped up on my screen. I let the phone ring. Then it rang again and again until finally a text came through. "I saw that you blocked Mom and Dad. What is wrong with you?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "We should talk." Not even an ounce of guilt or understanding. Just accusation. I stared at the message, my pulse hammering in my ears. What was wrong with me? James found me sitting on the edge of our bed, gripping my phone like it might break in my hands. "They did not even try to deny it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He sat beside me. "They knew what they were doing, Isabella, and they do not care that it hurt you." I exhaled shakily. I keep trying to tell myself that maybe I misunderstood. Maybe they had a reason. James shook his head. Stop. Stop making excuses for them. They made a choice." I swallowed, feeling the familiar sting of tears behind my eyes. He was right. They had chosen my sister, chosen her kids, chosen to lie to me, to let my children believe that Christmas had to be small and simple while somewhere else they were celebrating with a tree, full of gifts and laughter. That was not an accident. That was deliberate. That was a decision. The next day, I finally responded to my sister's message. They told me they could not afford Christmas gifts for the kids this year, but they could afford a full celebration for yours. They could afford luxury gifts, expensive decorations, a party, but they could not afford to even invite us. Explain that to me. Her response came almost instantly. "It is not a big deal, Isabella. Mom and Dad just wanted to do something nice for the girls." "You are overreacting." Overreacting? I felt my stomach drop. This was not an accident. This was not just about Christmas. This was how they saw me. Less than the afterthought, the child who did not matter as much. And for the first time in my life, I stopped pretending otherwise. I stared at my sister's message for a long time before typing my final response. "I hope your daughters had a great Christmas. Mine had to settle for small and simple because that is what Mom and Dad told me we could afford. And now I know where I stand in this family. So do me a favor. Do not contact me again." I hit send, then I deleted the thread, and finally I blocked her too. Not because I was angry, not because I wanted revenge, but because I was done. Done begging for scraps of love. Done pretending that I mattered. Done waiting for my parents to treat me like family when they had made it clear I was not. I put my phone down, exhaled deeply, and for the first time since Christmas, I felt lighter. The weight of their rejection was still there, but now I was not holding on to it. For the first time in my life, my phone was silent. No messages from my parents, no passive-aggressive texts from my sister, no guilt-tripping calls trying to smooth things over without actually addressing what they had done. Just silence. And it should have been a relief, but in the days that followed, I found myself reaching for my phone out of habit. A part of me hoping my mom would call to say, "Sweetheart, this is just a misunderstanding." I wanted my dad to step in and say, "We never meant to hurt you." But that did not happen. Because the truth was, they had meant to do exactly what they did, and they did not regret it. I should have expected the gossip. It started small. A mutual friend casually mentioned that my sister had been venting about me. Then another reached out saying, "Hey, is everything okay with your family? Your mom seems upset." Upset? She was upset? She had cut me out of Christmas and given my sister's kids everything while letting mine believe there was nothing to give. And now she was upset? I ignored the messages. But then James came home from work one evening, his face tight. "Your dad called me. I stiffened. What did he say? He is worried about you, that you are acting irrationally by cutting off the family. I let out a short, humorless laugh. So I am the irrational one? Not the people who lied to me and excluded my children from Christmas? James nodded grimly. It is the same thing they have always done, expecting you to take whatever scraps they give while they prioritize your sister. I clenched my jaw, my hands curling into fists. This was not just about Christmas. This was about a lifetime of being second place. I sat in the quiet of our bedroom that night, staring at old photo albums I had not opened in years. Page after page, I saw the same pattern. My sister at the center of every family event, smiling, surrounded by love and attention. Me, always just slightly to the side, present but never the priority. I remembered birthdays where she got the bigger party, the brand new bike when I got her old one, the way our parents beamed with pride at her piano recital but barely acknowledged when I made the honor roll. And now Christmas was just one more reminder of where I stood. Or rather, where I did not. I shut the album and exhaled shakily. I had spent years making excuses for them, telling myself it was not intentional, that maybe I was imagining it. But I was not imagining it, and I was not going to pretend anymore. The next morning, I sat Emma and Noah down at the kitchen table. "Mommy, what is wrong?" Noah asked, frowning. I took a deep breath. "I just want to talk to you both about something important, about family." Emma's eyes widened. "Are we in trouble?" I smiled softly. "No, sweetheart. But I want to talk about something I learned a little too late in life." They both sat up straighter, listening. Family is not just about who you are related to. It is about the people who show up for you, the people who make you feel loved, not just when it is convenient for them, but always. Noah tilted his head. "Like you and Daddy?" "Exactly," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze his little hand. Emma bit her lip. "Is this about Grandma and Grandpa?" I hesitated, but then nodded. "Yes, it is." They exchanged a glance. They were young, but not oblivious. They had noticed things, even if they had not fully understood them. Noah poked at his cereal. "They did not come for Christmas." Emma frowned. "And they did not get us anything." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "They love you," I said carefully, because I would never tell my kids otherwise. But sometimes people do not know how to show love the right way. And when people keep hurting you on purpose, you have to decide if you still want them in your life. Noah frowned. "Like when someone is mean at school and does not stop?" "Yes," I said, my heart aching. "Just like that." Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, finally, she asked, "So are we still seeing them?" I looked between my children, feeling the full weight of my decision. "No, sweetheart, we are not." Emma's eyes filled with tears, not because she missed them, but because she understood. And then, to my surprise, she nodded. "Okay." Noah looked relieved. "Can we make pancakes now?" I let out a watery laugh. "Yes, baby, we can make pancakes." As they scrambled, off their chairs, giggling about toppings, I felt something inside me shift. For the first time in a long time, I was not trying to fix something that was never mine to fix. I was not chasing approval that was never meant for me. I was breaking the cycle. And that was the best Christmas gift I could have ever given my children. It had been 2 weeks since I blocked my parents. 2 weeks of silence. 2 weeks of peace. And then the letters started coming. The first one arrived in an envelope with my mother's handwriting. My stomach twisted the moment I saw it. I should have thrown it away, but curiosity, or maybe old habits, made me open it. "Isabella, sweetheart," it began. I stopped there, already feeling the anger rising in my chest. "Sweetheart?" That is how she started this, after what they had done, after choosing my sister over me, over my kids. I forced myself to keep reading. "I do not understand why you are doing this. We are family. Families have disagreements, but they always come back together. We never meant to hurt you. You are overreacting. Overreacting. That word again. I clenched my jaw and kept going. We thought you understood that things have been hard financially. We did not have enough to do a big Christmas for everyone, so we did what we could. Your sister has been struggling too, you know. She needed our help. Why are you punishing us for that? I let out a short laugh. So that was their excuse? That they had to choose because they did not have enough for everyone? They had money for a luxury Christmas for my nieces, but nothing for my kids. I had spent years giving them the benefit of the doubt. Not anymore. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in the trash. 3 days later, I got a text. This time, it was from my aunt, my mom's older sister. I hesitated before opening it. Hey, Isabella, I just had a long talk with your mom. She is really upset. She has been crying over this whole thing. She does not understand why you are being so harsh. You know how much she loves you, right? I rolled my eyes. There it was, the classic guilt trip. When they could not bully me into compliance, they tried shaming me into forgiveness. I did not reply right away. Instead, I stared at the message, letting the weight of it sink in. My mom had been crying. Where were those tears when my kids sat by a small tree, unwrapping cheap gifts, believing their grandparents could not afford more? Where was that heartbreak when my sister's kids were showing off their designer sneakers and brand new electronics? Where was her sadness when I found out through a social media post that my own parents had celebrated Christmas without us? They were not crying for me. They were crying because they had lost control of me. Because for the first time in my life, I was refusing to be the daughter who swallowed her feelings just to keep the peace. I took a deep breath and finally typed my response. She is not upset because she hurt me. She is upset because I finally stood up for myself. And if you cannot understand that, then maybe you should stop being her messenger. I hit send. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The final attempt came through an old friend of my mother's, someone I had not spoken to in years. A Facebook message. Isabella, I just wanted to reach out. Your mom is devastated. She does not know how things got so bad between you. She asked me to tell you she loves you. She is heartbroken over what has happened. I know you are upset, but cannot you just talk to her? Life is too short for this kind of grudge. I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. They still did not get it. This was not a grudge. This was a boundary, a decision to stop chasing people who made it clear I was not a priority. And yet, they refused to acknowledge what they had done. There was no apology, no taking responsibility, just more manipulation. This time, I responded with only one sentence. If she is heartbroken, it is only because she finally got treated the way she treated me. That night, James found me sitting on the couch, my phone face down beside me. More messages? He guessed. I nodded. More guilt trips? Yep. He sat down beside me, watching me closely. You okay? I thought about it for a moment, and then, to my surprise, I realized I was. Because for the first time in my life, I was not waiting for my parents to care. I was not desperate for their approval. I was not grasping at the hope that one day they would treat me the way I had always treated them. I was done. And that felt like freedom. James took my hand, giving it a squeeze. Good. And just like that, I knew this was what real love felt like. 2 months passed. 2 months without a word from my parents, my sister, or anyone else carrying their guilt-laden messages. 2 months of peace, of dinners with my husband and kids, of laughter around the table, of weekends spent making memories without the shadow of family obligation hanging over me. At first, it felt strange, like something was missing. But then I realized what I was feeling was not loss. It was relief. But just when I thought I had fully stepped away from the family that had chosen to discard me, something happened that forced me to redefine what family really meant. It was late February when my phone buzzed with a message from my Aunt Sarah, my dad's younger sister. I hesitated before opening it. Sarah had always been different from the rest of the family. She was not part of the drama, not tangled up in my parents' games. She had always been kind, but we had never been close. Her message was simple. Hey, Isabella, I know things have been rough with your parents. I just wanted you to know that I see you. And if you and the kids ever want to come over for dinner, my door is always open. I stared at the screen, my heart tightening. There was no guilt trip, no attempt to manipulate me into going back. Just an offer, an invitation, not an expectation. I thought about it for a long time before replying. That would be really nice. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something unexpected. Hope. The following weekend, James and I packed the kids into the car and drove to Sarah's house. It was not a mansion like my parents' home, but it was warm, filled with the smell of home-cooked food and the sound of laughter. Sarah greeted us at the door, her face lighting up. You made it. She bent down, smiling at Emma and Noah. You two must be freezing. Come inside. I made hot chocolate. The kids instantly adored her. As they settled in with their drinks, Sarah led me into the kitchen. I know you do not want to talk about it, she said gently, but I just want you to know I do not agree with what they did to you. Tears pricked my eyes. They do not even think they did anything wrong. Sarah sighed. Of course they do not. That is how they are. They expect everyone to cater to them, to forgive them without accountability. I nodded, swallowing hard. They did not just do it to me. They did it to my kids. Her eyes softened. And that is why you are doing the right thing. Protecting your kids from people who only love conditionally. That is the best decision you could ever make. I took a shaky breath. Then why does it still hurt? Because you are a good person, Isabella. And good people always hope for better. But sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is accept that they will not change and stop waiting for them to. I looked around at her cozy kitchen, at the way she had welcomed my family with open arms, and I realized maybe I had not lost family. Maybe I had just found the ones who actually deserved to be called that. The evening was everything I had once hoped to have with my own parents. Sarah's husband played board games with Emma and Noah, laughing as they made up their own rules. Dinner was filled with conversation that felt easy, not forced. And for the first time in a long time, I did not feel like I had to prove my worth. Sarah did not see me as the backup daughter, the one who had to accept whatever scraps of attention were left over. She saw me as family and treated me like it. As we drove home that night, I glanced in the rearview mirror at my kids, fast asleep in the back seat. James reached over and squeezed my hand. You okay? I smiled softly. Yeah, I think I am. Because maybe family was not about blood. Maybe it was about who showed up, who loved you without conditions, who made space for you without making you beg for it. Spring came quickly, washing away the cold remnants of winter. With it came something else. Clarity. I no longer woke up expecting a call from my parents. I no longer hesitated before checking my messages, bracing for another attempt at guilt or manipulation. I no longer cared if they would ever understand why I walked away, because I finally understood it myself. I was not angry anymore. I was not waiting for closure. I had already given it to myself. It had been 4 months since Christmas when my mother finally found a way to contact me again. A letter. Another one. James was the one who picked it up from the mailbox, holding it up between 2 fingers like it might bite. Do you want to read it? I took a deep breath, staring at my mother's handwriting on the envelope. Then, without hesitation, I dropped it in the trash. James raised an eyebrow. That easy? I smiled and meant it. Yeah, it is. For years, I told myself that family was forever, that no matter how many times my parents chose my sister over me, no matter how many times I was treated like an afterthought, I had to hold on because that is just how family is. But I had finally learned the truth. Family is not about DNA. It is about the people who make you feel loved, safe, and seen. And my parents? They had spent a lifetime proving that they were not those people. Easter weekend rolled around, and for the first time, I felt no obligation to reach out to my parents. Instead, we spent the day at Sarah's house. The kids ran around the backyard searching for Easter eggs, while Sarah and I sat on the porch, drinking coffee and watching them play. "This is nice," Sarah said, having family around. I smiled. "Yeah, it is." She hesitated for a moment before adding, "I know it is not the same, Isabella. I know you probably still miss them in some ways." I thought about that. Did I miss them? Or did I miss the idea of them? The parents I had wanted them to be rather than the ones they actually were? I took a deep breath, letting the warm breeze carry away the weight that had once sat so heavy on my chest. "No," I said honestly, "I do not." And for the first time, I knew it was true. That night, I did something I had not done since Christmas. I scrolled through old photos of my parents, my sister, the life I had once tried so hard to hold on to. And then, one by one, I deleted them. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because I did not need them anymore. I was done looking back. I was done wondering if I had made the right decision. I was done giving love to people who refused to return it. I put my phone down, exhaled deeply, and closed my eyes. I had let go. The next morning, as I was packing the kids' lunches, Emma suddenly asked, "Mommy, will we ever see Grandma and Grandpa again?" I paused, looking down at her little face, so full of innocence, so unaware of the weight behind that question. "I do not know, baby," I said honestly. Noah tilted his head. "Do you miss them?" I thought about that. Did I? "No," I said softly. "I miss what I thought we had, but I love what we have now even more." Emma nodded, as if she understood in the simple, wise way that children often do. And just like that, it was enough. Months turned into a year, and in that time I built something better than the family I had lost. I built a life filled with love, honesty, and respect. I built new traditions with the people who showed up for me. And most importantly, I stopped waiting for love from people who had already shown me they were not willing to give it. Because the best revenge was not anger or bitterness, it was happiness. And I had finally found it. Looking back, I realized the pain of my parents' betrayal taught me a profound lesson. Family isn't defined by blood or obligation, but by who shows up with unwavering love and respect. For years, I clung to the hope that my parents would see my worth, excusing their favoritism as unintentional. But their deliberate exclusion at Christmas revealed a truth I could no longer ignore. Love shouldn't be begged for. It should be freely given. By walking away, I wasn't just protecting my children, I was reclaiming my self-worth. I learned that boundaries aren't punishment. They're freedom. They allow you to build a life with people who choose you, like Aunt Sarah, whose open door showed me what true family feels like. Most importantly, I discovered happiness isn't found in chasing approval from those who withhold it, but in creating a life filled with genuine connection. My children deserved a mother who valued herself enough to let go of toxic ties. And in doing so, I gave them, and myself, the gift of a family built on love, not conditions. That was the greatest lesson of all. The phone hummed on my desk, its screen flashing a number I didn't know. Like a stranger knocking at dusk. I was 28, tucked into the rhythm of a Wednesday afternoon in my cramped Chicago apartment. The kind of place where the radiator hissed more than it warmed. Something about that insistent buzz made my fingers pause over my keyboard. A ripple of unease curling in my chest. I answered. And a voice. Clipped. Professional. Sliced through the quiet. Peyton Carter. "This is Charles from Liberty National Bank." My coffee mug. Still warm. Felt heavier as he spoke words that didn't belong in my world mortgage. 523. $0. Overdue. The air thinned. And I stammered. "There's a mistake. I don't own a house." Charles's tone didn't waver. Each syllable a hammer. "The loan, taken 3 years ago, lists you as the primary borrower, Miss Carter, your social security number. Date of birth, it's all here. I gripped the phone. My pulse a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. 3 years ago, I was scraping by, balancing a junior marketing job and student loans. A house I didn't even own a decent couch. My mind snagged on a memory Jessica, my younger sister, prattling about her dream home at a family barbecue. Her voice bright with want she couldn't afford. The backyard had smelled of charred burgers. And Mom's laughter had drowned out my quiet doubts. Hadn't Dad said something about helping her? I told Charles I'd call back. My voice a brittle thread. The apartment closed in. Its peeling wallpaper and thrift store lamps suddenly foreign. A mortgage. $500,000. The numbers danced. Unreal. Like a fever dream. I stood, pacing the narrow strip of hardwood, my sneakers scuffing softly. Jessica's face flashed her careless grin, the way she'd always leaned on Mom and Dad to cushion her falls. They called me the steady one, the daughter who didn't need hand-holding. But this, my breath hitched. A shard of betrayal lodging somewhere deep. If this wasn't a clerical error, it was something worse, something that wore the faces of family. I sank into my chair, staring at the phone as if it might confess. The city hummed beyond my window. Oblivious cars honking. A dog barking faintly. 3 years ago, Jessica had moved into that sprawling house in the suburbs. All glass and sharp angles. The kind of place that screamed ambition beyond her means. I'd smiled at her housewarming, clutching a cheap bottle of wine, while Mom gushed about our Jess deserving it all. Had they known then? My fingers trembled, hovering over the bank's number. I didn't dial. Not yet. The truth, whatever it was, felt like a blade I wasn't ready to touch, but it was there, waiting. And something inside me a quiet, unfamiliar spark promised I wouldn't let it cut me silently. The night after the call, sleep eluded me. My ceiling a map of cracks I traced in the dark. By morning, my apartment's dim light felt like an interrogation room. The coffee maker's gurgle a mocking companion. I sat at my kitchen table, a wobbly secondhand thing, and opened my laptop. The bank's number burned in my mind. But first, I needed proof, something to anchor the chaos Charles had unleashed. My fingers flew across the keyboard, searching mortgage fraud and identity theft. Each article a punch to the gut. Words like forgery and criminal liability glared back, cold and unyielding. Could my own family have done this? I called the bank, voice steadier than I felt, and requested the loan documents. The clerk, a woman with a mechanical kindness, promised to email them within the hour. As I waited, I rifled through a cardboard box under my bed bank statements, tax returns, anything that might disprove my name on that loan. The papers smelled of dust and time, each one a reminder of my careful life, built without handouts. My phone pinged, and the email arrived. A PDF heavy with consequence. I opened it, and there it was, my name, Peyton Carter, typed neatly across page after page, my birth date, my social security number, all correct, and the signature mine. But not, the loops were too smooth, the slant too deliberate, like a stranger wearing my skin. I zoomed in, my breath shallow. The signature wasn't just close, it was practiced. A mimicry that chilled me. I knew my hand messy, rushed. And the P was always a little lopsided. This was someone else's artifice. Someone who'd studied me. My hands shook. Coffee forgotten. As I scrolled through the terms, 30 years, 523, $0, a house in Oak Park, Jessica's house. The truth settled, sharp as a splinter. My parents, who'd always smoothed her path, had signed my future away. For her, the kitchen walls seemed to tilt, the fluorescent light buzzing like a trapped fly. I pushed back from the table, needing air, but the betrayal clung like a damp cloth. Memories flickered. Mom slipping Jessica cash after her college dropout. Dad shrugging off my late-night shifts because Peyton's got it together. I'd been their safety net, the one who didn't complain. Now, my credit, my stability, my name, they'd taken it all without a word. I grabbed a notebook, scribbling dates, Details. Anything to ground me. The loan was 3 years old. Signed when I was 25. Too buried in work to notice. Had they forged other things? Bank accounts, credit cards. My phone buzzed a text from Mom. Hey, honey, dinner Sunday, miss you. The normalcy of it burned. Her words a mask over what they'd done. I typed sure and hit send. My fingers cold. I wasn't ready to confront them. Not yet. I needed more evidence. Not just pain. Back at my laptop. I pulled my credit report. Heart sinking as the mortgage appeared. A black mark dragging my score down. I printed it, adding it to a growing pile the loan papers. My ID. Old emails from Jessica about her perfect house. Each document was a brick in a wall I was building. Though I didn't yet know its shape. The day bled into evening. My apartment shadowed except for the laptop's glow. I thought of Jessica's housewarming. Her laughter as she showed off granite countertops. And Mom's proud smile. I'd felt small then. My thrift store dress out of place. Had they planned it even then? The question gnawed. But another rose. Quieter. Fiercer. What else had they taken? I closed my eyes. The city's distant pulse seeping through the window. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. Fractured beyond repair. And as I stacked my papers, I felt something shift or resolve. Fragile, but growing. That I wouldn't let them erase me. The drive to my parents' house felt like crossing a border. The city's clamor fading into suburban stillness. Sunday evening draped their street in a golden haze. Porch lights flickering to life. I parked my sedan's engine, ticking as it cooled, and stared at the familiar brick facade once a haven. Now a stage for truths I wasn't sure I could voice. My notebook, heavy with printed evidence, stayed in the back seat. This wasn't about papers yet. It was about seeing their eyes, measuring their guilt. I knocked. The sound swallowed by the hum of cicadas. And Mom's smile greeted me, bright as if nothing had fractured. Inside, the dining room smelled of rosemary and warm bread, a cruel echo of countless Sundays. Dad slouched at the table's head, his fork scraping against a plate of roasted chicken, while Jessica lounged across from him, her manicured nails tapping her phone. No one looked up as I slid into my seat, the chair creaking under me. Their chatter swirled Jessica's gripe about her neighbor's dog, Mom's cooing praise, Dad's grunt about work. I chewed slowly, the food tasteless, my pulse a steady drum in my ears. Their normalcy was a mask. And I waited for it to slip, halfway through dessert. As Mom passed the apple pie, I set down my fork. I got a call from the bank. I said, my voice low, deliberate, like dropping a stone into still water. The room stilled. Forks hovering. Jessica's phone froze mid-scroll. Something about a mortgage. My name's on it. Mom's laugh was too quick. A brittle chime. Oh, honey. Probably a mix-up. Jessica's gaze darted to her plate, her fingers twisting a napkin. Dad cleared his throat. Eyes on his pie. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch. A taut wire. It's 523. Zira. I pressed. My tone even. Eyes flicking between them. For a house I don't own. Mom's hand fluttered to her necklace. A nervous tick. Peyton. It's nothing serious. We just needed your name to help Jessica qualify. You're not paying anything. Jessica nodded. Voice sharp. It's just a formality. You've got the good credit. A formality. The word landed like ash. Gray and weightless. They didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. They believed their lie that my life was theirs to borrow. I nodded. Lips pressed tight. And said, got it. Mom beamed, mistaking my calm for surrender. Jessica resumed scrolling. Dad took a sip of coffee. They thought it was over. But the ember in my chest glowed hotter, promising a fire they couldn't see. Driving home. The streetlights blurred into streaks. My knuckles pale on the wheel. Their words looped. A bitter refrain, nothing serious. Just a formality. I'd sat at their table. Invisible as always. Well, they justified theft, but I wasn't the girl who'd once nodded to keep peace. The city skyline loomed ahead, sharp against the dusk. And I knew what came next. Wasn't loud accusations, it was action. Quiet and unyielding. Monday morning broke gray. The city's pulse muted by a drizzle that streaked my apartment's windows. I called in sick. My voice flat as I spoke to my boss. Then drove to a coffee shop tucked between a laundromat and a used bookstore. The air inside was thick with espresso and damp wool. A refuge for secrets. I sat in a corner booth. My pile of documents, loan papers, credit report. Scribbled notes spread before me like a battle map. At 9:00 sharp, Mr. Warner arrived. His gray suit crisp. Eyes like flint. He was the attorney a coworker had sworn by. Known for cutting through family messes with surgical precision. I slid the papers across the table, watching his face as he scanned them. He set the stack down. His gaze steady. This is fraud. Plain and simple. Identity theft. Likely by someone close. The words landed heavy. Not a shock, but a confirmation. Like a door locking shut. He outlined the path file, a police report. Dispute the loan with the bank. Prepare for a fight that might turn ugly. You ready for what this'll do to them? He asked. I nodded. My throat tight. I'm ready to take my life back. Warner's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. And he handed me his card, promising to draft the dispute letter. I left the shop. The rain colder now, but my steps felt lighter. Purposeful. The police station smelled of stale coffee and ink, its fluorescent lights buzzing like a headache. At the counter, I handed over my folder, now thicker with Warner's notes. The officer, a woman with tired eyes, flipped through it, her brow creasing. Your own family. She murmured, more to herself than me. I stood straighter, the weight of her pity glancing off me. They made their choice. She stamped the report, her pen scratching as she logged it, and gave me a copy. Its edges crisp against my fingers. Official. Irreversible. I mailed the dispute letter from a post office nearby. The clerk's chatter fading as I signed the certified form. The envelope felt like a grenade. Small but explosive. And I let it go. Days later, the silence in my apartment was broken by a sharp knock. Through the peephole, I saw Mom. Her coat soaked. Face twisted with something raw anger. Fear. Both. I opened the door but didn't step aside. How could you drag the police into this? She spat, voice fraying. You're tearing us apart. Her hands clenched, as if she could grip the family's image and force it whole. I studied her. The woman who'd once braided my hair. Now a stranger defending a lie. You tore it apart when you used my name. I said, soft but unyielding. Like a blade sheathed in silk. Her eyes widened. Searching for the daughter who'd bend. She found none. You've destroyed us, she whispered, tears spilling. I shook my head. I'm just done fixing what you broke. The door clicked shut. A sound sharper than any shout. And I stood still, heart racing. Not with guilt, but with release. Jessica's calls came that night. A flurry of voicemails I deleted unheard. Their buzz like flies against glass. The bank's response arrived a week later. A letter in my mailbox. Its seal unbroken until I sat at my kitchen table. They'd suspended the loan, pending investigation, and offered a formal apology. Words stiff but validating. Warner emailed, confirming next steps, affidavits, possible court filings. Each action was a brick laid in a new foundation, one they couldn't touch. I thought of Mom's tears, Jessica's desperation, and Dad's silence at that dinner. They'd built their world on my compliance, expecting me to crumble, but I was done carrying their weight. Outside, the city moved on, its rhythm unbroken buses rumbling, laughter spilling from a bar downstairs. I leaned against my window, the glass cool against my forehead. The fight wasn't over, but I'd claimed the first victory. Not with screams, but with steps they hadn't foreseen. Their lies were unraveling, and I was no longer the shadow in their story. For the first time, I felt the shape of a life that was mine, its edges sharp but true, and I held it close, ready for whatever came next. Weeks passed like a held breath, the city's rhythm a distant hum against the quiet that settled over my life. My phone, once alive with family texts, lay silent, no calls, no guilt-laced messages, just a void where their voices used to be. At first, the absence stung, a bruise I pressed in the dark, wondering if I'd severed too much, but slowly, the ache dulled, replaced by a fragile lightness. I'd been erased from their story, and in that erasure, I found space to breathe. My mornings, once tethered to their expectations, became mine. I wandered a farmer's market on Saturdays, the air sharp with basil and fresh earth, buying a jar of honey that caught the sun like amber. Its sweetness lingered on my tongue, a small defiance against the bitterness they'd left. I started running along the lakefront, the Chicago skyline glinting across the water, my sneakers pounding a cadence of reclaiming. Each step shook loose memories I'd carried too long. Mom's distracted nods, Jessica's careless demands. The legal fight churned on, a steady undercurrent. I signed affidavits sent by Mr. Warner. Their legalese a map of my disentanglement. The bank's investigation deepened. But I didn't dwell on it. Instead, I enrolled in a woodworking class, my hands learning the grain of oak, the slow art of shaping something whole. The workshop smelled of sawdust and linseed oil, and as I sanded a small box, I felt my edges softening too, not from weakness but from choice. Nights found me on my balcony, a chipped mug of chamomile in hand, the city's lights pulsing below. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was a canvas, vast and unclaimed. I thought of the girl who'd once apologized for existing, who'd swallowed slights to keep the peace. She was gone. Not with a crash, but with a quiet unraveling. I didn't crave their apologies or their ruin, just distance. A horizon free of their shadows. A neighbor's radio drifted up, playing jazz, and I closed my eyes, letting the notes weave through me. This was peace. Not the kind they'd promised, but one I'd carved myself. Yet, beneath it, a question lingered. Would they ever see me? Not as a tool, but as a person. I pushed it down, focusing on the life blooming in their absence. The wooden box I'd made sat on my table, its lid etched with a simple curve, a reminder that I could create without their permission. Warner's latest email confirmed the loan's dispute was progressing. A slow untangling of their knot, I replied, then stepped outside. The autumn air crisp against my skin. Whatever came next, I'd face it on my terms, not theirs. And that was enough for now. One October afternoon, I returned from a craft fair, my arms cradling a cedar cutting board, its wood warm against my chest. Outside my building, they stood Mom, Dad, Jessica like ghosts caught in the fading light. Their faces were drawn, edges softened by loss, not love. Mom's scarf fluttered, untied. Jessica's posture sagged, her usual polish dulled. Dad stared at the sidewalk, hands shoved deep in his pockets. The bank's investigation had unraveled their world. Jessica's house foreclosed, their stability fractured. I stopped, the board's weight grounding me, and felt no anger, only a clear, steady calm. Mom spoke first, voice thin as frost. We're family. We messed up, but you can't abandon us. Jessica stepped closer, eyes glistening, her words a plea wrapped in desperation. I'm losing everything. Help me. Just this once. Dad said nothing, his silence louder than their words. I set the board down, its thud soft but deliberate, and looked at them. Looked, not the family I'd once idolized, but people who'd taken without asking, who'd come now because they needed, not because they cared. I straightened, my voice steady, like water over stone. Family doesn't build on lies. I hope you learn that someday. Their eyes widened, searching for the daughter who'd bend. Mom's lip trembled, a protest forming. But I continued. Softer now. I'm done carrying what you won't. I'm free. Jessica's tears fell. Dad's shoulders hunched, but I felt no pull to fix them. I lifted the board. Its scent sharp and clean, and stepped past, their presence fading like smoke. At the stairwell, I paused. The city's hum, rising traffic. A distant siren. Life moving forward, I whispered. Not for them, but for me. Leaving is my loudest word. The words settled. A vow etched in the air. I climbed the stairs, each step a shedding of their weight. The cedar board a quiet promise of what I could build alone. Behind me, the street was empty. Their shadows gone. Ahead, my life waited imperfect. Unscripted. Mine.